welcome. It is yet another edition of Begin Again here at Begin Again University. I am your host, the Chancellor. Yet again on tonight, Dr. Ray Johnson. I want to thank our streaming audience and for those who will see this on the replay, welcoming themselves and making their way right on in on tonight. I'm excited of the opportunity to be able to share with you yet again another moment for Begin Again University. We've been walking right on through our connecting points of looking at crisis management and contingency planning. And as we do that, what we're hoping to do is to be able to gather together the skills that we need to be able to pivot very, very well in terms of navigating a little about our life purpose. People ask me all the time, okay, what exactly is this? What is this all about? And so it's a part of our coaching and mentoring group for both leadership and relationship development. And many people ask me for our streaming audience who will be coming right on in, what is it that takes place in it? So there's monthly trainings that happen with myself, weekly lunch and learns that take place, a private Facebook community group that is available as well. And then here are some of what the benefits are. It's the mentoring, the modeling, and here's the big one, mind molding. And the reason I say that's the big one in terms of mind molding is simply because of this. You can want to begin again in various areas of your life all you want, but unless you have a mind that's committed to doing so, it can become very difficult because you're going to have challenges that are going to actually be right there that kind of get in your way that you've got to navigate through. The very last one, the actual motivation to begin again. And so what areas do we focus in on? Leadership and organizational development for organizations, people, companies, organizations, and individuals. Our 3-quarter proprietary system, looking also at relationship readiness, repair and renewal. And then there is every 3 months a master class like this. This one happens to be in crisis management. The next one will be in leadership development. That'll be coming up in October. And so I always look to make sure that we understand that there's going to be spiritual, relational, leadership intelligence. Here's the big one, with an increased capacity in each of these areas. And as I already mentioned, we're in our first master class. We'll be going all the way up to September the 18th, even right to the 20th, where we'll take some time together and spend some time. So remember this, that crisis management is the ability to discern and discipline oneself to decide how to pivot. That's so key, deciding how to pivot in order to maintain the intended course of direction. So whatever it is that you're looking at maintaining and looking at being able to continuing to do, being able to develop skills in crisis management, critically important. And regardless of the incident that's taking place, your ability to be able to pivot to ensure you get to the spaces and places that you want to be at is so important. And that's what really crisis management is really all about. Tonight's question, we're going to take some time tonight and answer this question: how to develop and strengthen our tolerance and threshold for pain. How to develop and to strengthen our tolerance and threshold for pain. So as always say, even in this area of pain management or improving our threshold to be able to wrestle with and to deal with pain, remember, I'll always say it this way. I always say, you can begin again. And you would say,
yes, Coach, we can begin again.
I'm so glad. I think I might be in the right class on tonight. Let me say it again. You can begin again.
Yes, Coach, we can begin again.
All right, now it sounds like I'm in the right class. Let's go ahead to that first slide there. For those of you who are just making your way in and tuning in on tonight, navigating and managing the space of change. And really what I would say tonight is we're talking about that ability to be able to handle the space of change as it relates to the issue of pain in our lives. So remember, crisis management is about our ability to hear, experience, and handle unexpected catastrophe and still have hope. There are going to be catastrophic moments that are going to happen in your life pretty much. Some would say regularly, some could say annually, some might even say monthly. How do you feel like I feel? You got your head on a swivel, you're looking for what's going to go crazy on today. I would say that, yeah. At least the good Sheila is with me. Good Sheila is with me. Good Sheila is with me. That would be. I have my mind focused in on not so much that I'm always looking for what's negative. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that should something crazy happen today, I've already developed a sequence in my mind whereby which I'm going to be able to still navigate through my day. And so a lot of that has to do with our ability to be able to navigate and to manage well. Now, I know this is not necessarily Bible study, but it is happening on Bible Study Wednesday night. Go into that next screen. I'm going to make it large on the screen here for our streaming audience. Listen to what Proverbs 13 and 12 says. Check this out. It says, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing, see that there, fulfilled, is a tree of life. A longing fulfilled is a tree of life. And so what we all desire is a sense of fulfillment. Am I right about that? Yeah, we all desire a sense of fulfillment in every area of our lives, or at least in the area of why we're on the planet. And so part of what my task is in our gathering together for Begin Again University is to help us to discover, to go through this process of a self-discovery where there are some aha moments that you have within yourself about how I'm wired, which is why we've done the DISC testing, the personality testing, how I orient to the world, how I see things, how I process things. Because there's one thing, if you don't get anything out of all of our sessions that we'll have as we gather together, I want you to make sure that you get this, and that is being comfortable in your own skin. Never try to spend your time being someone else. You can appreciate other people, and you can appreciate how they present themselves. You can appreciate their individuality. You can even appreciate their greatness, and in many instances, it could be the lack thereof. But I want you to be comfortable in your own skin so that you never find yourself trying to be a carbon copy of anybody else. That God designed you to be an original. I mean, so much so that the numbers of hair on your head are numbered. If you're like Mike and I, it is. It's easier for some of y'all than as well. And let me just go ahead and say this. For those of you who pay for your hair, even those numbers on your head are still, I mean, it's yours, you paid for it. The reason I say that is always remember, you can begin again.
Yes, Coach. We can begin again.
Let's go right ahead to that next screen. So a key to this, a key to all of what I've said is when it comes to crisis management is our ability to manage pain. I didn't write the word navigate pain, but I want you to write that down in your notes that you've got. Should be right there to the left of you, Sheila, the blue one that either one, you have either one, yeah. So the ability to navigate and manage pain. The reason why I say navigate pain is because even though, if I use myself as an example, even though I am in the midst of, with my head on the swivel, looking for what could take place next, right? That doesn't mean I'm trying to avoid what could take place next. So I don't want you to miss my meaning tonight in tonight's teaching. I don't want you to try to orient your life and navigate your space in such a way where nothing ever catastrophic or crisis is not going to happen to you. But this is life, and life happens to everybody, okay? So being able to have your mind positioned, if this were to take place, how would I navigate out of this? I attended and participated in the homegoing service of, as I mentioned, that I would be in on this week, that I mentioned on Sunday. And I said, you know, if I'm going to be late because of traffic, how would I still get there and get in place on time to participate in the service the way that I did? So automatically I put 2 or 3 different other routes inside of my GPS to take in case the main one didn't. Always prepare, jot this down, always prepare for the unexpected. Always prepare for the unexpected. A part of crisis management and contingency planning is preparing for the unexpected, the things that potentially could happen or the things that you don't necessarily see happen. So remember crisis management skill development. The question tonight is, what's your threshold of pain? So for me, if I had to rate myself physically in the areas of a threshold for pain, athletes who've been in their craft for a while, you develop a mentality already that you've got to be able to play and perform with knick-knack injuries. Like a knick-knack injury for me could be a dislocated finger. As a ball handler in basketball, people are always trying to steal the ball for me. And so swiping down at the basketball, I'm going to have moments where my fingers are going to get beat up. So I remember one entire season, I had a dislocated, middle finger. So I would take my middle finger and my two middle fingers, and I would tape them together. And I put some padding in them, and I went a whole season understanding and knowing I'm going to get hit in these fingers. So developing a threshold for pain. So I'm at a 10. I can handle a threshold of pain of 10 in my middle fingers. And so I think I put in on here, there are various levels of pain that we each would have to navigate and that we each would have to manage. And so I would say physically for me, I'm at a 10. We're going to talk emotionally and spiritually. I think that spiritually, I'm about an 8 in terms of pain threshold of what I can handle on a scale of 1 to 10. Emotionally, I'd like to say that I'm graduating I would rate myself, if I had to examine my life, I would probably have rated myself at a 4, somewhere between 4 and 6. And as I've graduated, I'm somewhere between an 8 and 9. No way am I at an automatic 10 right now. Absolutely not. In terms of threshold of pain management. And so I want you to kind of do a self-analysis of yourself as we go through this, and we'll come back and visit this. So look at this here. Let's go to that next screen. Pain threshold is tied to our response time and our ability to navigate, look at this, traumatizing spaces to reach the end goal or to maintain life purpose. Pain threshold is directly tied to our ability or our response time and our ability to navigate traumatizing spaces. Navigating traumatizing spaces. So remember, a crisis is something that doesn't happen every day, but it is something that is going to come. And we all experience crises on several different levels. But our ability to navigate the moment to ensure that life purpose about why I'm here on the planet is not negated, that our ability to do that actually strengthens and elongates our ability to be able to navigate and to manage pain. So look at this next screen. The goal of crisis management is to ensure we navigate the process of change to ensure our intended goal to be obtained. Let's go to that next one. So let's do these areas. Physical pain should be in your notes. Is an unpleasant feeling such as a prick, a tingle, a sting, a burn, an ache, and whatever may cause those to happen. Look at this one for spiritual pain. It is pain that is deep in the soul. I would say the soul and the psyche, and an intrapsychic conflict that you have. Where there's despair, there's loss, there's regret, there's anxiety, and interpersonal loss or conflict. Here's what I didn't put in your notes, and I want you to jot down. That spiritual plane also happens when there is a gap between expectation and reality. Between expectation and reality. Now, I know tonight that this is not Bible study, but here's what I want to be able to say to us tonight when we're looking at spiritual pain. And when I say it's a gap between expectation and reality, sometimes we can have, those of us who are believers, we can have a faulty expectation of God. We tend to have a relationship with God based upon what it is he can do for us rather than who he is. And when you come to understand who he is and how life purpose orients around him and not the other way around, Sometimes the disappointment that we experience has to do with a faulty expectation. And sometimes God will allow spiritual pain in our lives so that we can align ourselves properly with His desire and with His purposes, right? And with, let's use a different word, with His agenda for us. So sometimes this intrapsychic conflict, this despair, this loss or regret and anxiety, sometimes God allows that to be able to provoke us toward change through pain. Jot that down. Sometimes God allows pain to provoke us to change. Sometimes God allows pain to provoke us to change, to get us in good alignment with Him. So I'm going to make this next screen a little bit larger on the screen here for those of you who are watching tonight. I hope that this is helping so good a little bit so far tonight, because I always want you to know you can begin again.
Yes, Coach. We can begin again.
Very good. So look at this next one. The third area is where we're going to spend the lion's share of our time. Emotional pain. When you experience difficult emotions, you experience emotional pain. A person may experience emotional distress due to various factors. Look at these. They include grief, loss, trauma, stress, and yes, indeed, toxic relationships. These experiences, here's what we may not have considered. These experiences leave an imprint on two spaces, on the mind and the body. So whenever you have emotional pain that happens due to these factors of grief, distress, factors, loss, I would even add in there the difference between the reality or the difference or the space between reality and expectation. That can also cause us to have toxic relationships or cause us to have emotional pain. There's going to be an impact in your body somewhere, and there's going to be an impact in your mind or in your soul somewhere. And here's the big one. Here's the big one that we may not necessarily want to have to come to terms with. Those two together, at some point or another, is going to affect your decisions. The impact of pain in your soul and that which translates into your body is going to have an impact on your decisions. Anybody ever known anybody with a short fuse? I mean, they go from 0 to 10 in a second. What's behind that going from 0 to 10 is some kind of an emotional trauma or pain. We use the term in counseling or psychology, trigger. So some event triggered them, whether it was a word spoken, an event, a smell, a taste, a place, where you can almost like lose it, right? Anybody want? I'll share one of my emotional pain point moments. I was talking on the phone with a great friend of mine today. We were at this homegoing service today, and so I was communicating about having some follow-up work that we wanted to do. And amidst that follow-up work, he just said, "Let me stop you right there." He said, because what needs to happen at this point is we might just have to settle for the fact that at the end of this homegoing, the two parties may not ever connect with each other. And that they may have to accept the fact that they're headed in two different directions and really work on their lives to be not even so much cordial, but just know that it's good that they exist. Because they're not going to get together. They're not going to necessarily reconcile with each other. And I just want to say this to you, Pastor Bishop, you got to be okay with that. And the pastor in me was like, well, no, we ought to be able to, see what we can do. Well, there may be too much emotional pain that is there, that even on sight, something could be triggered in another person. And so it is absolutely okay when you're dealing with the impact of emotional pain to understand that not everything is going to end up in a kumbaya moment. So I say that to say, when they said this to me, they flipped it on me and asked me a question. If you had been burying your daughter today, and some of the things that we described are taking place to your daughter, how would you feel? Would you still be in a good position today? All of a sudden, I went, I started seeing each one of my girls' faces, all the way from 27 down to the 18-year-old. And I went, yeah, I don't think the good bishop is going to be here at this point, right? So that is that would be a trigger moment for me that I'd have to get comfortable with in terms of navigating the space. But here's what I want to say about that. To the degree that I can navigate the space to separate out the emotional response, to focus in on what needs to get done, is to the degree that what needs to get done can get done in regards to life purpose. And I want to encourage you all to think about, how do I get there? How do I get there? Sheila, you've been nodding your head all night. Can you think of a moment where you had to quickly assess yourself and say, you know what, I can't focus on that right now. What's more important is focusing on this, that you care to share? No? Anybody got one? You said, you know, I can't focus on that. I need to focus on this. And then here's a follow-up question. As we talked about this tonight, I want you to talk to me about, how would you rate yourself? Let's just go around the room. Mike, how do you rate yourself when it comes to managing and navigating emotional spaces with family? On a scale of 1 to 10. What number would you give yourself?
I would have to say actually pretty low, because I do that by avoidance.
Avoidance. We're going to talk about that tonight.
I do not invest emotions in many things.
Yeah.
So therefore, I don't have to do it.
So you're going to be between 2 and 5?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Devin. Emotional pain management. Where do you get? What number would you give yourself?
Probably
A 3. Lady. Emotional pain management.
probably a 7
Yeah.
to a 9.
A 7 to a 9. Would you say your 7 to 9 is because you had so much to manage in your life that you had to train yourself to be that way?
Because oftentimes, like even just for example, my father dies. I love my father. I'm a daddy's girl. My father dies, and the thing that they want me to do is come and sing,
Right.
And well,
She.
my family did it consistently, and I don't think there's any harm by it, but it's like when my both grandmothers, my aunts, my uncles, I didn't have the time or the that kind of privilege, so to speak, of feeling the grief or the loss. I would have to do that at a later time by myself.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it's the ministry moment.
Yes.
Even when I remember, and I think everybody knows my testimony about being sexually abused as a child, and then the abuser's grandmother dies, and the family asked me to come and sing at the funeral, and in my mind, I'm like, oh, I've given it up. But the Holy Spirit had to remind me that the anointing doesn't even belong to us.
Right.
We are vessels. It's not that and this comes at, I don't say put yourselves in harm's way if you haven't dealt with things. That is not what I'm saying. But it's when you've gotten to the point where the Lord says, I need you here to minister to the family, and really that's what it is, it's ministry to the family. Then we put our own emotional crisis, so to speak. Not that God doesn't care, because He really does care.
Yes.
But that we look past that, because He gives us moments and periods of healing as well. And He had brought me to a place of healing, but what my flesh was saying, what my spirit was saying, it's needful for me to go to Samaria, kind of thing. So, yeah.
So 7, you would say you trained yourself into 7 to 9.
I think God has trained me.
God has trained you.
Even, and I'm just being as transparent as I probably can be. Even when my ex-husband was cheating, and God told me to call the woman and pray for her,
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
You say,
what?
She got something the rest of us don't got. I ain't got that.
But I'm telling you, when I did so, the forgiveness was right there. And any kind of residue of pain, you shouldn't have been sleeping much. It was gone after I prayed for it. That's why it's so important for us to pray for our enemies. It seems illogical, but the wisdom of the world is not the same as God. His thoughts are so much higher.
Yeah. So Sheila W., what number would you give yourself on emotional pain?
Probably fairly high.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
You're a 7 to 9 person also?
So yeah, because I'm not someone who sit around and cry. I don't cry, but I do other things with breathing and I got, my sleep is all bad, all sleep is away. So, I just been thinking about it a lot, like I might not sleep or might not eat, like 2 months ago, about it, and sharing about it. I experienced something very painful. And I'm still working through it and getting there. Sometimes I wish I could just, have a really good cry, but I've never been a person to cry. That's my highest emotion. So it's been pretty high. And then, like, I never had, it seemed like the kind of pain that I have experienced. It's never been a situation where I could just sit back and just, self-absorb and self-pity. Because I have to move, I have to, navigate the problem solve. Like, especially like with divorce, raising my son. It just never really been moving. You just have to keep moving. So I guess that's probably the reason why I'm like my dad. I had never really had a healthy relationship with my dad. But what relationship I had, I was thankful for that. And so, like my dad passed away like in November, it's kind of expected to some degree. Then in January, my youngest sister at 31, she passed away unexpectedly. So that's like 2 or 3 months apart. And then 8 months later, my older brother, which I'm really close to, he passed away in the same year. So I just felt like then I had to be strong for my mom. And you can imagine losing 2 children in the same year.
Yes.
Your youngest child and your oldest child. So I just felt like, being around the oldest, so it's just, I think it's pretty hard.
Yeah.
Live with one person.
Good. So when we are able to take ourselves from a 2 of emotional pain management and get to a 7 to a 9, what has happened is we've developed a skill to help us navigate the next thing that comes. The key is the skill that you use in the process, because you still want to maintain a sense of relatability and adaptability and also connectivity, okay, with the outside world and with who you are within yourself. So being able to go from a 2 to a 7 is a tremendous feat. And that's what we're going to spend some time talking a little bit more about tonight. Look at this next screen for me. When it comes to crisis management and contingency planning, our ability to handle and manage the thresholds of the areas of spiritual and emotional pain, look at this, determine how well and the speed of progress toward purpose. So if you want to take a picture of that, when that was down in your notes, or you can jot it down, these words here, determines how well and the speed of progress towards purpose. And so our ability to navigate that makes all the difference in the world in terms of handling emotional and spiritual pain. Because really, I'll give you a chance to take a shot at that. Well, let's go to the next screen. What you're going to find is that stagnation is a result of poor pain management, emotion. Stagnation is a result of poor pain management. So look at these two. I'm going to make them larger on the screen for those who are tuning in. Pain management is the conception of aesthetic substances designed to remove us away from the reality of discomfort. Some people take pain management, which is different from threshold. Pain management is I'm trying to escape and numb myself so I don't have to deal with this emotionally or even psychologically. And people use various methods. That's what I'm talking about. Pain threshold management is different. It is our ability to extend the apex point of pain, without losing focus or responding outside of our two things, character and values. Without responding outside of our character or values. So you don't let the moment that is happening push you to operate outside of who you are. Sometimes we will have pain management moments to numb ourselves, to help us with our character and values process. And what I want to encourage you to do is to separate those out and to stay away from pain management and look at being present in the moment without the moment being present in you. I'll say that again. Being able to be present in the moment without the moment being present in you. Say it one more time. Being able to be present in the moment without the moment being present in you. Let's go to this next screen here. I got signs of pain that are also in your notes that I want you to be able to see. Look at these different signs. You can tell when someone's having a painful experience by anger, mood swings. How many of y'all can say I've had mood swings? Yeah. You know, mood swings come on you seasonally. Anybody ever had seasonal mood swings? Look at these. Insecurities, poor self-esteem. Come on. Some of y'all that don't sleep too well at night. Insomnia. Sometimes insomnia can be directly tied to some side of emotional pain. Look at this. Holding on to the grudges. Every time you see somebody you think of, right? I can say I wrestled with that one. Difficulty in forgiving others. I would say those two bullets go together. Difficulty in forgiving others. And I think I've said this one last week. You know, holding on to unforgiveness is like expecting and hoping the other person is going to drink poison when your glass is full. Okay? Look at this one. Lack of social communication. When you just isolate, hibernate, go within yourself, you know, make connections with people. What that really shows is that you haven't developed the skill of being able to love people without having to necessarily trust them. Okay? Because you can love people without trusting them. Right? Remember, we are to trust God, love people. So here are 5 signs of emotional suffering that we experience. Okay, check this out. You may notice sudden or gradual changes in the way someone typically behaves. Here is us not doing too well with allowing the moment not to be present within us. They can get agitated easily, withdraw, poor self-care. Look at that. Hopelessness. I think all of us, who can admit I've had moments where I've struggled with all of those. Withdrawn, hopelessness. Oh, it's always going to be just horrible. How many of you can say, you know what? If I'm being honest, I go through a range of these within a week. If you take those in my profession, Sunday evening and Monday is the worst time because the adversary is after us with all kinds of mental assaults that we didn't do as well in the public ministry performance or in the last week of ministry engagements, whether it's teaching, preaching, counseling, visitation, all of that stuff, right? And so it is very easy. You can go from having an agitation to feeling hopeless. And when those two get to working on you, you become withdrawn, right? And then all of a sudden it impacts your self-esteem. So this is what I mean when I'm saying, learn how to be present in the moment without the moment being present in you. Is that making sense? So the signs of pain and emotional suffering, look at this. Go to the next screen for me. Are weapons of mass destruction when it comes to living our purpose. The signs of pain and emotional suffering. These are our adversaries' weapons of mass destruction when it comes to living out your life purpose. If God really loved you by this age, you would have been here. by this age you would have done that. Then this would have happened to you like that. Then you would have never experienced this. He would have never let that happen to you. Weapons of mass destruction. The reason he brings those, jot this down for your note-taking purposes. The reason that weapons of mass destruction of the adversary are used against us, it is because he is trying to get you, jot this term down, our adversary is trying to get us to self-sabotage. Trying to get us to self-sabotage. And I know this isn't Wednesday night or Sunday morning, but I want to be able to say and suggest to us tonight that remember our adversary is already defeated. He's already defeated. He's already under our feet. So all that he can do is utilize the power of suggestion to get us to do us in. Okay? And he loves the one where we withdraw, because once you withdraw and get into isolation, now that mind really starts working on you. Okay? So look at this. Here's where they are. I think I may have put these in your notes, may have not, but go to that next screen. I'll make it large on the screen for our audience that will be watching tonight. Check this out right here. Our audience that will be watching tonight. Here's what the weapons of mass destruction are designed to do. Stunt growth and development. It's designed to stunt your growth and development. Number 2, stagnation. If you don't see them in your notes, just jot them down in some of the open spaces I've got there. Stagnation. Weapons of mass destruction are designed to stunt your growth and development. And then also stagnation. And this has everything to do with social dynamics, financial management, relational connection, finding happiness beyond happenings. Okay? Here's another one, steering you in wrong directions. Sometimes when hopelessness, despair, and withdrawing happens on us, this is where he's trying to now navigate us to go back into environments with people, places, persons, and things that are not good for us. Okay? Here's the one that I really like to try to stay out of, and that is systemic cycles, habitual patterns and behaviors. Has anybody ever analyzed your own systemic cycles? Like I've said before, I know that for me, the fall, although it's a good time of the year because my birthday is coming, celebration of Christ, Thanksgiving, I was ordained in the Christian ministry in the fall. And so I always, like I said, every day I got my head on the swivel looking for what would take place next, to have a contingency plan. In the fall, I'm on high alert in the fall because I know he's coming some kind of way. So I got my head on the swivel and I'm watching and I'm looking, right? Because I want to avoid habitual patterns and behaviors that happen with me as a result of my own mood swings. Okay? That's important in terms of developing the threshold to be able to handle and manage pain. I'd encourage you, as we get toward the end of this, I'm going to take you on a journey. I think about class 2 in August, and then class 2, 3, second class in August, and the 2 classes in September. I'm going to take you on a timeline development sheet, where you're going to have a chance to look at your life over a timeline, and in that, you're going to be able to find some patterns. And what I want you to be able to do, the reason this lesson is important about emotional pain management, is once you find the patterns, you will know how to break yourself out of cycles. I'll say that again. Once you find the patterns, you will know how to break yourself out of cycles. Okay? Let's go to this next one. So here's what we cannot do. What we cannot do is pretend as if the emotions we feel aren't real. One of the, like today at the homegoing service I participated in today, you know, the eulogist, great friend of mine, she did everything right in regards to putting the feeling of loss right in our laps so that it's okay to feel lost. What it's not okay to do is to stay in the feeling of loss. Now, here's the key. the feeling of loss and being in that is different for everybody. Okay, so some people may be in grief 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, but still be functional. That's okay to a degree. Okay, but what you don't want to do is let it become a lifestyle for you. Am I making sense tonight? Okay, so what we must learn to do is not respond out of how we feel and the impact towards us. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I think if I can remember, so this person that you went to, did you say it was pastor's wife? It was this person today.
The funeral today?
It said it was a pastor's wife.
Yeah, it is one.
Okay. So what I wanted to ask about, do y'all have, do they have any like support systems
Absolutely.
for pastors when
Yes.
they lose their spouses? Do they need? I would think that would be.
Yeah.
I think that would be a need. for
Absolutely.
pastors when they lose their spouse like that.
Absolutely. One of the places that at the end of today's gathering, the place that I go to, this other pastor had gone, and the leaders of that place, they know me so well, and I send people there. They were asking him if he knew me. This is the place down in Ennight, North Carolina. One of the first places I'm sending him to for grief recovery is there.
Right.
To that place in Ennight. But there needs to be more. On the peninsula, we have the Peninsula Pastors Counseling Center.
Right.
That is here locally.
Right.
But there needs to be more in the area of grief recovery, in the area of emotional management, because the work that we do, you can't let your esteem be tied to this, because it ain't our work, it's God's. That's just Chili, you were about to say something. Okay. Okay. So, yeah.
I just wanted to ask that.
Sure.
About that.
Yeah.
And I think there is a void, because there's sometimes when you talk about people in leadership, I remember being in front of a pastor and he said, I have nowhere to go
Right.
for counseling because everybody knows me.
Right.
And he had wanted to find outlets and find groups. He even encouraged the pastors' council that he was a part of to have a counseling ministry, specifically for pastors, because sometimes pastors can't just go, and see their congregants at the same place, get counseling.
Absolutely.
Right. And so it was a burden of his heart. Unfortunately, he got a heart attack. And he did not have that outlet and needed to go somewhere. So I do believe that there's a very valid need. That was a great question.
Yeah.
There's a very valid need for more counseling opportunities, for specifically for pastors.
Right. Because when we had that, so you won't remember then, but there was a time we had pastors, committed suicide.
Yes.
Been afraid, like I know that this was for Pastor Greg, because
Yeah.
he was going through a lot too.
Yeah.
But I think too, they just don't really have the support systems, and they don't have the outlet like I don't pastor the church.
Right?
I see Sister Johnson at church, I'm not trying to be going to campus. So they do need something that's separate or set apart, but at the same time to meet their needs.
Right.
Because they have children like anybody else.
And there is such a thing as compassion fatigue.
Right.
Where you have given,
Absolutely.
you don't have the strength, absolutely, to hear anyone else. And the way that you counsel then becomes almost bitter.
Right.
Because you have not dealt with what's going on in the inside.
Right.
Absolutely, 110%. Let's go to that next screen. We'll take the time when we get to our steps and strategies. So when we don't respond in the key areas of our decisions that can impact destiny and purpose areas in our lives, we have just learned how to increase our threshold to handle them. When we don't respond out of pain, we increase our threshold to handle them. That's what we're saying. When we don't respond out of pain, we're increasing our threshold to handle them. So this requires for us to develop skills in pain threshold management. I put this chart up because I want us to see the different areas and spaces. This one may not be in your notes, but take a look at the screen. Go to that next slide for me. Pain emotion chart. So whenever we've got stress, it messes with the mind. When we have emotional burdens, we feel weighed down, which is why there's a piece on the shoulders. When we worry financially, we feel it right in the pit of our stomachs, right? When we fear, the fear of change, okay, this one can mess with us right in our hips and legs. Isolation hits us right in our hands and arms. When we lack flexibility, a lack of emotional support, that's right in the chest, right in the heart. So is unforgiveness. That one is with our mouth, how we speak. Ego has to do with the knees, that's about how we walk. Tension and jealousy, again, how we walk. Lack of pleasure, again, that's an issue of walk. Depression, you feel that in your feet, you really can. So I want you to be mindful of, sometimes you have pain in your body because of something that's going on emotionally. But this is what I'm trying to make sure that I impress upon us to convey, so that for us, and now don't want to turn this into a long discussion point, but just to say, as believers, not everything is the devil. We can't blame everything on him. Some stuff is just our threshold management of pain has got to increase. I put this next one up on how to break the cycle. Look at this. Psychological vicious circle. Look at this here. So you've got anger and anxiety. This one may or may not be in the image. So if you want to take a picture of this one before, go ahead. It causes an impoverished mood, which then leads to depression, which then leads to increased perception of pain. Increased perception, which then, once that perception increases, that's what flips you right on over. So now, because of the perception of something, you go more to anger, and more anger, more anxiety, more stress, and the thing happens all over again. Then it goes in another side. Look at the other side. When we talk about withdrawing, you've got avoidance, and then you've got progressive deconditioning, and you've got pain with decreasing activity or engagement, and then that's further activity avoidance, further deconditioning. So it's a cycle that continues to happen all simultaneously at the same time when we don't have good emotional pain management, where we can handle a lot in terms of increasing our threshold for being able to navigate the spaces. Am I making sense tonight? All right? So let's get into the skills. We got about 12 minutes left. Let's get into the skills that we need. The skill of navigating change in the area of pain. So number one, acceptance. Accept that all emotions have value. Don't discount your emotions. So at its core, emotional tolerance requires us to think differently about our feelings than we may have before. I want you to think differently about our feelings than we have before. Particularly for us as men, we have not been nurtured or cultivated to be able to express our emotions, particularly with tears, or to be able to verbally say, this hurt me, I was offended when that took place, I felt like this. When we have not been coached to be communicative, we end up doing stuff like punching holes in walls or exploding on people who had nothing to do with the moment that took place with us. So learning how to accept the emotion. Now hear what I'm saying. Remember to be present in the moment without the moment being present in you. So there's a way that you can acknowledge how you feel about something without reacting and responding out of how you feel. That's the key to this. So I accept the fact that I'm angry. I accept the fact that I'm disappointed. I accept the fact that I feel lost or grief, or I feel isolated, alone. Learning how to be able to acknowledge and accept those are critically important. Number two, accurately identify your feelings. In your notes, you might want to jot this down, or you can take a picture of this one. We must identify how we really feel about situations and scenarios without having to relive them. I found myself, as I discussed a lot of what took place in my own life, what I was really trying to do as I talked about it was trying to identify Why does this have me so upset? Why does it have me? Where am I on my grid of emotional threshold development? And as I tried to discuss it, there were those close to me saying, you're reliving this, you're reliving this. I said, no, I'm trying to pinpoint it so that this does not become a trigger in the future for me, okay? So look at this right here. We must learn to identify the feelings versus the source. Feelings versus the source. Feelings will pass. Sources only change in our root system. You want to identify the why of the emotional pain that you feel. Why is this causing you to feel this way? Okay? Why is it causing you? Because once you get down into there, you can, I was just talking to someone today, you can keep that root of bitterness and unforgiveness from getting set into your system and thereby affecting and impacting your psyche. Is that making good sense? Okay, so that's number 2. Let's go on to number 3. This one is going to be tough, particularly for those of us who are male. We must learn to sit with the feeling and or emotion and not always demand change or an act of response from the offender or offending situation. A lot of times, if a man gonna tell you something that's on his mind, he's looking for you to change or for there to be a change. And really that has to do with control. People who are high D's and high I's on the DISC test, we ain't just trying to run our mouth and run our mouth. We want to see some change out of this. What we must learn to do is to be able to sit with our feelings and our emotions of how we feel about a particular place, person, place, or thing without allowing the offense to get set in to demand a change or response. Because how many realize, like I figured out a long time ago, those of us, with a little bit of seasoning in our lives, we understand you can't change people. People are people who are going to be people. Okay? So don't expect for there to be a change. And if there isn't, you don't go flying off the handle where you lose it. Am I making sense? Okay? This practice improves our response and recovering time to pain. When you don't demand a change, it stretches or deepens or elongates your threshold for pain and your ability to be able to handle and manage pain. Okay? So a lot of times when something takes place, we won't resolve. Sometimes you're not going to get resolved. What you do want to do is not let stuff get into your root system. Making sense? All right, here we go. Let's get ready to land this plane tonight. So release. Number 4 is release. We must have safe spaces of response and release without condemnation, without judgment, or a promise of retaliation. I love that. Which is why I'm glad, she just stepped away for a second. I'm glad Sheila asked the question. Because particularly for those who are spiritual leaders, you need counselors. Look at that, retreat centers. Here's one that we don't often talk about. The management of our group dynamics. Who are you associating with when you're having a moment? Who's in your space? Who's in your corner? In other words, who's got your ear and who's in your ear? Jot that down. Who's got your ear and who's in your ear? That is very, very important when it comes to increasing emotional pain thresholds. Okay? What you're hearing, remember, faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God. What you hear can make all the difference in the world. And I'll put this one in just for us as believers. Gotta have the scripture, prayer, and lifestyle of devotion. I love the TikTok video of the young lady that talks about her communication with God and how she was angry with God. And so she, in the midst of her being angry with God, how do you know God ain't tripping because you're upset? That doesn't stop his love toward you. And it doesn't stop his plan or his will for you either. Okay? So, but scripture, prayer, and a lifestyle devotion is so important, and at least it will keep you coming back. Here is the big one. I'm landing the plane on this one tonight. I'll make this large on the screen for those who are watching online. Rerouting, okay? Emotional threshold pain development or management. You've got to be able to reroute what it is that you're feeling emotionally. Rerouting is about a perspective change. It's about how you see it. It's about ensuring that things become, watch this one here, I like this one, fuel, where we're able to use the experience or moment to create drive towards successful accomplishment of the goal. And that is, remember, living out our life purpose of why we're on the planet. I was having a conversation with someone who was, dealing with a father wound issue in their life. And I talked to them about how to be able to take it and turn it inward and use it as fuel without it festering. I'll say that again. How to be able to take the experiences you have, use them as fuel without them festering. That's a skill where that becomes your motivation. I'll use, for the sake of time, I'm going to use this one quick and I'll finish it after we wrap up. I watched the lady through the process of us coming together and us having to sell our houses, having short sales. And we watched her go through the process of being able to save money, clean up credit, find another house, purchase it, all within about a year and a half. And I would dare say the driver for her in that was because her former would say words over her like, you ain't gonna never be nothing, have nothing, do nothing. So rather than live in the ethos of that, it becomes fuel, turning inward to now allow it to become something that becomes a motivator and fuel for you in each and every area to get towards your end goal of being able to accomplish things in your life. These are our points for tonight. So for homework, go to that homework screen for me. We're going to land this plane. And we'll have a little bit more dialogue in this area of fuel in just a second. For our streaming audience, we're going to be getting ready to fade away from you. Here's what I want you to do for next week. For those who are watching online that also catch this on the replay, I want you to revisit and review tough space and place of emotional moments. And I want you to write down and record how they have become fuel. I want you to write down and record how it's become fuel. Ladies, you cannot use the example I just gave about you.
Well, that's what I
I will have you share those. Okay? So this is what I want you to do for homework for next week. Well, actually, not next week. The next time we gather will be in August. And so I want you to have that ready for discussion. And here's another piece I want you to add in. Be ready to talk about your personality traits test in light of this review stuff that you're going to do. And talk about how you would do things differently or how you would do things consistently the same. Make sense? Everybody got it? All right, for those of you who are tuning in, this is Begin Again University. We're signing off for our time and gathering together in the month of August. Thank you for tuning in on tonight. July. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you the second Wednesday night in the month of August. Always remember, you can begin again.
Yes, Coach, we can begin again.
Thank you for tuning in. God bless you. Bye-bye.